Bienvenidos. Hey, everyone. It's great to see members actually from all different chapters here in the Zoom room today on this beautiful summer day, right in the middle of Latin Grammy Awards season. As many of you know, I'm Christy Albino, the Texas Chapter Executive Director for the Recording Academy. And today we're going to talk about dual membership. Some of you are dual members already, and some of you came to learn about what it takes to become a dual member. On either side of the coin, I get a lot of questions about this at the Texas chapter. So we have all the right people here to talk about the subject. How do the Recording Academy and Latin Recording Academy work together, for example? What does it take to become a Latin Recording Academy member? How to renew your dual membership, awards information, and more. We'll also take some time to answer your questions. Joining us today are Isabel Paz, Latin Recording Academy Membership Director, Jeanette Becerra, Latin Membership Manager for the Recording Academy, and Belen Duceves, Recording Academy Awards Manager for Latin Music. Thanks, team, for taking the time to hang out with the Texas chapter today. So we are going to dive right in with Isabel and Jeanette on membership. Isabel, we'll start with you first. Can you tell us about the Latin Recording Academy's mission and how the Latin Recording Academy connects with its members?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, Christy. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon. I also see some familiar faces, so it's great. There's some that I don't know, but I hope that I can connect with them. So the Latin Recording Academy is an international nonprofit dedicated to nurturing, celebrating, honoring, and elevating Latin music and its creators. That's our mission. That's what we do. We're established as the global authority of Latin music, and we are also a member-based organization. We have members throughout Latin America, Europe, Spain, Central America, and in a total of 43 countries.
Awesome. Well, something that some people don't know is that the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy are sister organizations. So the Latin Recording Academy is an affiliate of the Recording Academy, and we are fully separate. The Recording Academy licenses the Grammy trademarks to the Latin Recording Academy, and a small number of Recording Academy representatives, such as our CEO and the chair of the Board of Trustees, sit on their trustee board and work with them on all that they do. So with that, I wanted to ask Jeanette, can you clarify with us what dual membership really is?
Yes, of course. And thank you for having me, Christy. So dual membership is not a type of membership per se. It's just saying that you are a member of both the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy. Once you're members of both, then you're considered dual.
Excellent. Yeah, that's something that was news to me just a couple of years ago. It just wasn't processing. So it's really good to have you clarify that. So I wanted to see if Jeanette and Isabel could dive a little bit more into dual membership with the Academy, what it takes to qualify, how that process works. So we'll spotlight Jeanette and Isabel to talk about that for us.
You want me to start, Jeanette?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So like Christy was saying, we do have different requirements. We also have different timelines. We have different number of categories, and basically, to make it easy, we have year-round submissions for memberships. The Recording Academy doesn't. We need the person that's a part of the Latin Recording Academy to be active in Latin music, and by Latin music we mean that the content needs to be 51% recorded in Spanish or Portuguese. That's a main requirement. So we need it, since we honor Latin music, we require that this music is recorded in Spanish or Portuguese. We don't require any letter of recommendations, and our credits work either by submitting 6 physical credits released within the last 5 years or 12 digital credits released within the last 5 years. And the material needs to be commercially released in order for us to consider it as a credit.
Right. And on the flip side, on the Recording Academy, you have to be active in the music industry as a whole. We do have a membership cycle that goes from March 1 to March 1 every year. So we're currently in the class of 2024 membership cycle. The new class from 2023 is going to be invited at the end of June. We do require 2 letters of recommendation when you're submitting for membership. And once those 2 recommendations are in, you'll fill out what's called a candidate career profile, which will basically be all of your credits, any type of career substantiation, distribution, etc. And then on the other side, if you're a professional member, it will be just what you do in the industry. So that can be a company website, it could be a LinkedIn page, a business card, a photo of a business card, etc. And then something to note that is a difference between RA and LRA, Recording Academy and Latin Recording Academy. We require 12 credits, and that could be physical, so like the picture of a label copy, or 12 credits that are digitally released. It needs to be commercially distributed in the US, and at least 1 credit needs to be within the last 5 years. So like Isabel said, all your credits are within the last 5 years, correct, Isabel?
Correct.
Yes, and so on the Recording Academy side, we need at least 1. And then there's also distribution. I believe we're on the same page. We look at Spotify,
Mhm.
Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, etc. We just want to make sure that we can see it, online, or if it's physical, it'll be pictures of a label copy, etc. And for career substantiation, on the voting side, we're looking for your discipline. So for example, if you are a touring musician, we want to see your touring website. We'd like to see social media, fan engagement, also any type of press. We look for, in the last 5 years, press interviews, maybe if you're speaking at a conference, if you're performing at one. And then for the professional side, it'll just be, instead of creative, it'll be what you do professionally. And Isa, if you want to just say the difference about the professional and associate.
Yeah, I was just gonna go to
Yeah.
that. We don't call it professional. So our non-voting members are associate members, and these are people that are part of the music industry. They contribute to the music industry, but they're not music creators, or perhaps an artist that's up and coming that still doesn't meet all 12 credits to be able to vote. Those are our associate members.
Right. And on our side, if you're a professional, it's solely that you are working in conjunction with a creator, but it's not, if you don't meet the credit requirements, you would become professional. That's not, I believe that's how it worked when we had associate membership in the past, Christy. And then now that we switched to professional, it's just solely those that work in the business. And those, I think, are the main differences. I think also our dues are different. Isa, if you want to talk about
Yeah, our
LRA's
dues are
dues.
different. If you're either a voting or an associate member with the Latin Recording Academy, your dues are $85 a year if you live in the US and $50 if you live in Latin America. And where you live is exactly where your mailing address is, where you will be mailed your Grammy or your certificate, and that's how we rate the price. And a membership can be paid for a year, 3 years, or 5 years.
Yes, and on our side, Recording Academy membership is currently $100 a year. And if you are a dual member, it will be $100 a year for both academies. So let's say you're part of the Latin Recording Academy and you're about to get invited into the class of 2023, your dues will now be $100, and we will work with LRA to make sure that if you already had a membership, any type of refunds and all that, and we'll make sure that it's still 100, and then it's 500 for 5 years.
And then I also wanted to mention that there are some members that are first LRA members, or they're members that are first the Recording Academy members. And it doesn't really make a difference for the process so that you can be dual. It's just, based on when you got approved. Because like we said at the beginning of the talk, we are in the Latin Recording Academy, we approve applications all year round versus the Recording Academy.
Yes, and once you want to apply, let's say you're not a member of either one, or if you know somebody that's not a member of either one, depending on the cycle, we'll make sure that you're applying for the right one, because we want to make sure that you're doing it in conjunction with the dates. So Isa and Belen will talk later about some important dates, deadlines coming up for the Latin Recording Academy. And so if it's closer to that, we'll say, go ahead and apply for LRA first. Then you still have until March 1 of next year to apply for TRA. So we just want to make sure that, you're applying with the deadlines in mind for both academies. And if you have any questions about dual membership, you can contact me personally, or you can contact membership@recordingacademy.com, and we can send you a bit of a breakdown so you can guide anybody to membership@recordingacademy.com, and we'll put that in the chat as well. I think that's about it, Christy, unless anybody has questions.
Okay. Thanks, Jeanette and Isabel. I think that it just makes it more apparent, that the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy are two separate organizations. And as you can see, our membership processes are different. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, voting members are the creative and technical professionals that contribute to recordings that are released to consumers, to fans. And professionals or associates, as it is with the Latin Recording Academy, are more of the business side of the industry. And, that's just something to keep in mind. And I do want to reiterate that since it might not always appear incredibly simple, it's really important and helpful to get in contact with us so that we can talk about what would be the best approach for someone who is not yet a member of the Recording Academy or the Latin Recording Academy, or someone who's a member of the Latin Recording Academy first and then wants to become dual. It's depending on which side you're entering from, it is different. So I also want to let everyone know that you can put your questions in the Q&A feature. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's Q&A. Enter your questions there, and I'll be taking a look at that. Okay, so moving on. So renewing a dual membership, it's really important to stay on top of renewing your membership, especially if you just want to make sure that you don't miss any of the important dates and deadlines when it comes to the Latin Grammy Awards or the Grammy Awards. So Jeanette, can you let us know how a dual membership is renewed?
Yes, of course. So if you are a member of both the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy, you'll notice that when you log into your dashboard on Recording Academy, so we can put also that link in the chat, I'll put it in a second, you can toggle to the LRA dashboard via your account. So for example, if you're a voting member and you want to participate in OEP or something for LRA, you would log into your Recording Academy account, and then you would put go to LRA is I think the wording, and then you'll see everything on that side. But to renew, you would stay on the Recording Academy side, and there should be a Renew Now button on the top right, and that will reflect the dues for both academies. There's no need to renew for one and the other. You would just renew one time, and it would be the dual renewal. If you have any issues with that, again, you could contact membership@recordingacademy.com. And also, I think Isa put the Laris membership@recordingacademy.com in the chat, or you can contact me and we'll sort it out manually. But typically, Renew Now will be on the top right of your membership dashboard. Once you renew, you pay the $100 right now, and then it will renew for both the Latin Recording Academy and the Recording Academy.
Got it. And while we're on that subject, something that is still relatively new for our members is requalification. So if you don't know this already, a member has to requalify every 5 years with the Recording Academy. And the process is pretty straightforward. It's a matter of updating your credentials to ensure that you are still active in the music industry and qualifying for both Latin Recording Academy and Recording Academy membership. And again, there's that interesting part of it that the qualifications are different for both. So Isabel and Jeanette, can you talk to us about that process of requalification?
Yes, of course. I wanted to start also by saying that we do share the same database. So Janet and I have the same access to the same information, whether you're a Recording Academy member or a Latin Recording Academy member. But yes, we do also require that we need to requalify the members every 5 years. And the way that it can be done, it's either they can send us to latticemembership@grammy.com their credits, and we can upload them and go through them, or the member can actually go into their member webpage, and in their dashboard, they can update their credits. They can also update mailing address, email addresses. It's very important to keep all this information up to date, because that is the way that we communicate with the membership. we wish we could reach out to every single person individually, but it's impossible. So it is very important to keep it like that. So when you need to renew, you need to make sure that for the Latin Recording Academy, you still have those 12 digital credits or those 6 digital credits. Something that I also wanted to make clear was that Janet mentioned that label copies, they can send a picture of a label copy. We need the label copies to be signed by the president of the record label. That's a small requirement that we have. But basically, that's how our requalification process is done. It's very easy, once we are able to review the credits and we see that the member still has the qualifying credits to vote or to stay as an associate, then we go ahead and we're able to renew that member.
Yeah, and on the Recording Academy side, it's very similar. We also have requalification every 5 years. So for the incoming class, for example, class of 2023, they would get invited, they will join, all of their credits and everything has been approved by the peer review panel. 5 years from the date that they become a member, they will get a notification saying, hi, you need to please update your credentials to make sure, that you're still kind of in line with our requirements, our qualifications. So this will be for voting and for professional members. So for voting, we have to make sure that you have those credits, the press, and all that within the last 5 years. We want to make sure you're up to date. And on the professional side, we want to make sure you're still currently working in the music industry. And for those that are dual, we work hand in hand. So Isa and I and both like the team at LRA and at RA work together to make sure that the recall dates will eventually sync to one for both, and that way we can go over the credit qualifications together. And so in the next 5 years, it'll be according to the dual date, if that makes any sense. And then another thing to note, which I think Carlos put in the chat, is on the Recording Academy dashboard, there will be an update credentials button on the top right. If you go to renew and you're like, how come I can't renew with this update credentials button? That's basically just kind of filling out like that candidate career profile that I mentioned for when you apply. It's updating your credits, your distribution, tour information, social media, press, interviews, etc. And then on the professional side, it would be any type of up-to-date. Sometimes people change companies, so it would be your up-to-date email address, for example. Maybe it's at a label, your LinkedIn, etc. Then that will go to our peer review panel. It takes about 8 weeks to review, and then you'll be notified, hey, now you are good to renew, or we need more information. This is what we're missing. Another way, if you do not see the update credentials button, is you can reach out to our team and we can manually update it, but that's only if there's some sort of technical difficulty, because typically it's pretty easy to just update those credentials on your own, and it'll be faster that way. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and direct them in the Q&A or the chat.
Another question that we have from Carlos is, can A&R VPs sign instead of the president? They're often more involved in their clients' memberships. So who can access, and how would someone's manager or other representative access the account, I guess, to update their credentials for requalification?
Well, memberships are meant to be individual, so it's supposed to be that the member is the one that has access to their account. And the reason why it is determined like that is because this is the voting member is the one that's going into their dashboard to be able to vote. So we don't want our members to be giving their passwords to their managers, because this could potentially mean that somebody else is voting on their behalf. But going back to the beginning of your question, we would have to see case by case if the A&R, if that label copy signed by the A&R is permitted.
So for the question, I believe it was directed more so to Isa, but as far as updating the credentials, that would be an example of maybe you wanted to do it to be done manually. The A&R or whoever works with them would submit it to us, and then we can upload it on their behalf. Maybe like the artist is on tour or something like that. But that's case by case basis, same thing as Isa said.
And we thank you for being a part of this event. I mean, that's one way that you can, get to know us and get in contact with us, is if you do have a situation like that, you know who to reach out to so we can help you with that. And we're happy to do that. If that person is a Texas chapter member, I'll say that I'm somebody, that you can always reach out to help you coordinate that with membership. But also, being in the Latin field, Jeanette and Isabel, depending on what the situation is, are also here to help with that. So one thing I just want to reiterate that I love that Isabel pointed out is it's so important for a member to be aware of their membership renewal date. Because we have so many members at the Recording Academy, you know, we can't reach out to every single person individually. And we send our, you know, renewal emails out, you know, 45 days in advance or 2 weeks in advance, and again the day before. But sometimes we know that people are busy, and it's hard to keep up with our email inboxes, right? So it's so important to, you know your dashboard. That's where you vote. That's where you submit product for nomination consideration. And when you're in there, check out what your renewal date is and put it on your calendar. And also, if it works out for you, select auto renew, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Because one thing I wanted to ask Isabel and Jeanette is, you know, the timeline for something like requalification. You know, you might be up for requalification, your membership just expired, and you want to make a date that's coming up for Latin Grammy Awards voting. But it does take some time to requalify. It's not something that we can necessarily turn around overnight. So Jeanette or Isabel, can you tell us what the timeline looks like for requalifications as it stands now?
I mean, we at the Land Recording Academy, we're in the middle of our process. So this is a big season for us. So it's not that it takes so long, but there's times during the year when we have our volume increases. I mean, this is something that we can easily verify, but again, it depends on the amount of emails that we are getting.
Right. And then on our side, the review process does take up to 8 weeks. But you will be notified, like Christy mentioned, 45 days prior. I believe the next one is 21 days, and then the day before. So if you get that email 45 days prior to renew, you actually won't see the renew now button. You'll see the update credentials. And so that hopefully, once you update everything as quick as possible, we'll be able to review you. And again, like Isa mentioned, sometimes it does take a little bit longer depending on the season that we're in, but we try to review those as quickly as we can, so that way you can renew.
Janet, I wanted to add that every application and every requalification is reviewed by one of us in the membership team. So that's why, you know, sometimes the process is a little lengthy. There's not an automated system that approves you to be a member.
Mm-hmm.
We physically need to go into the system and review and click on every link that was submitted and make sure that the name of the person is there, make sure that the date is correct, that if it, you know, that it is within the 5 years. So that's why sometimes it might seem a little lengthy, but every membership is individually reviewed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's so good to know. That there are real people behind the scenes looking at every application to make sure that we protect the integrity of the Grammy and Latin Grammy Awards process. So thank you so much for sharing that information. I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions about membership, specifically renewing, requalification, or joining, throw them in the chat right now. We have a couple more minutes to take a question on that topic. And the other thing that's really cool too is we are two separate organizations, but it's good to know how closely we work together on these dual memberships, and to see the relationship between you and Isabel and Jeanette, and how you work together on making sure that a member is taken care of. So thanks so much for that information. It was really helpful. And just double checking that there are no other questions.
I wanted to add something, Christy. Also, our general inboxes are checked by a human. There's no automated. I mean, I think in LRA, the only time when we put an automated message is during Grammy week. But every email is also personally answered. So sometimes it takes a bit, but it's because of that.
Right.
Absolutely. Since we don't have any other questions about membership specifically, I think we can move on to talking about awards. So we're right in the middle of Latin Grammy Awards season, and we're approaching some important membership and awards deadlines. If you have any questions as we go through this segment, please add them to the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can. So let's review the Latin Grammy Awards at a glance with Isabel.
I was trying to unmute. So this year, we are celebrating the 24th annual Latin Grammy Awards. And our awards are going to be for those products that were commercially released between June 1st, 2022 and May 31st, 2023. We already passed all of our online entry process, and we're happy to share that we received over 19,000 entries. We just finished our screening committees, which are composed of different executives, music experts, and other people, members and non-members. Next week, we will be having in Miami our committees meet in person. So this year we did a hybrid. The listening portion was done via the app, and then now we're all meeting in Miami to discuss any conflicts or any changes from the submissions that were done. Our next deadline is July 7th. So if you want to be able to be a voting member and vote in the first voting round, you need to be an active or have renewed your membership by July 7th. We will start our first online voting process from July 27th through August 7th. And we will have a next cutoff date of September 15th to be approved and be able to vote in the second round. We're announcing nominations September 19th. And as I'm sure most of all of you know, this year we will be in Sevilla, España. We're very happy. We're working very hard. And also keep in mind that if you plan to attend our event schedule will change a bit. We're going to start our events on Sunday. So from Sunday through Thursday, it's when events will be happening. After nominations are announced, we will kick off our final round of voting, and then winners will be announced November 16th. And I also wanted to mention that the calendar is super, super important, because you don't want to miss a date of when you have to renew or when you need to be an active member by. Otherwise, you're gonna miss, entering OEP, voting in the first round, voting in the second round. So the calendar is extremely important. We share it at the beginning of the year, usually like towards the end of February, we update it, because that basically defines the entire journey for this year, for the year.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing those dates. We put the link in the chat to the Latin Grammy Awards calendar that was being shared on the screen. So if you check out the chat, you'll get the link there, and you can scroll through the dates. Again, so important to double check your member dashboard to make sure that your membership is renewed and that it doesn't expire between now and when the awards season finishes out. So double check that. And if you have any questions about the Latin Grammy Awards dates and deadlines, just throw them into the Q&A, and we'll get to those questions in a moment. So now I'm going to invite Belen Dusteves. Belen, thanks for hanging on with us. We want to talk about the Latin categories for the Grammy Awards. And of course, they differ than what we see in the Latin Grammys. So can you share the categories in the Latin fields and any information?
Of course, and thank you for inviting me, Christy. So we currently have 5 categories in the Latin field. They're all album categories, and they are Latin pop, Latin tropical, Latin rock and alternative, música urbana, and regional Mexican, including Tejano, which I'm very pleased to share that after this year's A&N committee, the name of that category has changed to Música Mexicana, including Tejano. This change will be officially announced soon, but I'm glad I can share it with all of you now. And the name change was a proposal submitted this year to A&N, and the reason is that, as many of you may know, Música Mexicana has been the preferred title used by the artist community, media, DSPs. There are so many artists in different countries that are creating Música Mexicana, so no longer segmented to just Mexico. So yeah, that change will be officially announced soon. And the requirements to submit entries in these 5 Latin categories are lyrics of 50% or more in Spanish in its respective genre, and commercially released during our eligibility period, which this year is from October 1st, 2022 to September 15, 2023.
Excellent. And I think we had some dates and deadlines that you wanted to share. Do we want to go ahead and move on to that portion?
Yes, so our media company online registration will open very soon, July 10th. And then our online entry process, OEP, soon after that. And these are our updated prices and the schedule for OEP. And then the next slide has, again, as Jeanette and Isabel mentioned, the membership. The screening meetings begin in September. Also, they're all in September. And then we move on to the first round ballot, which is announced in, well, October. We don't know the official date yet. Nominations are also TBD, but it's going to happen sometime in November. And then the final ballot, and then of course the 66th Grammy Awards.
So Belen, do we know if those dates or when those dates are going to be shared with our members?
They should be shared soon. We just finished our A&N committees and the Board of Trustees, so we're updating the rule book. Announcements are rolling out this week, next week, but very soon. In the next week for sure.
Okay, thanks. So we'll talk to Jeanette and Isabel. Thank you so much, Belen. So something that's happening in people's dashboard is they're going in, maybe they're seeing their renewal date is up, and yet they're not seeing a renew button. So what should someone do in that situation, Jeanette?
So if they're not seeing the button, and I think it was Geneva, that, yeah, I just looked into your account, actually. I don't see the button either. But I would message membership at recordingacademy.com. They're the ones who are going to be able to work with accounts and IT just to make sure that there's nothing technically wrong with the account, but it doesn't look like you're up for requalification or anything like that. So that's not the issue. I think it's just something technical. Maybe something's clicked. So please reach out to membership at recordingacademy.com and feel free to copy me just so I can double check in that. There's also a couple other questions that I answered privately on the chat, Christy. But if anybody wants to reiterate the question, if you want me to answer out loud, please let me know in the chat.
So I guess this is just a big picture question that maybe Jeanette and Isabel want to tackle. Is there any way that if a member is already a member of one of you organizations and they want to become a dual member, that it can be expedited? I think that's actually a good question, because a lot of members will, come to the chapter and say, hey, can we make this work? I've been a Recording Academy member for so long. I've got to get this Latin Recording Academy membership going because I see that there's a deadline coming up. Can you expedite it? What do y'all think about that? What's your take?
I mean, on our end, since we do approve applications every single day, it is possible. There's not such a thing as an expedited process. But I mean, if we're aware of it, if you guys send us an email and we can make that approval happen if the person meets the requirements for the type of application that they're submitting, because we do approve all year round. For Janet, I believe it differs.
Right. It's on the flip side. I wrote in the chat that because we're on a membership class cycle from March 1 to March 1, there's no way to expedite somebody's membership because we don't do year-round approvals. I will say, when we're looking into an account, if you're already an LRA member, it does help your account, because if you're accepted with LRA, you probably meet our qualifications because they're so similar. Also, we can ask questions to LRA if we have any questions about your profile, for example. When you apply for both, your application will stay in our database. And so I can access LRA's application and ESA can access the Recording Academy one, just so we can see links. Maybe you submitted to one and not the other. Maybe it was a couple years apart. So it does help, but it doesn't expedite on our side. I hope that answers your question. I think that was Ernie.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, Jeanette and Isabel. So we just wanted to cover some of those membership questions that I saw coming in through the chat, but we're going to shift gears back to the Grammy Awards and Latin Grammy Awards, because one of the questions that I get from our members a lot is how do the committees work for the Latin Grammy Awards and the Grammy Awards? So we all know that voting members are the ones that vote on the ballots and determine the nominees and the winners, but everybody hears about the committees that take place. So Jeanette and Isabel and Belen, maybe we can both take a moment with each of you to talk about your awards committees, what they are, and if a member is interested, how do members get involved in those?
Okay, so for the Recording Academy side, the awards department reviews each entry submitted in OEP to confirm eligibility. And once eligibility has been confirmed, submissions are sorted by genre-based committees to ensure that all recordings are listed or are included in their proper categories. These committees are selected by the chairperson of each field and with a respective genre manager of each field. And then they're signed off by the Recording Academy Executive Office. Of course, we ensure committees are well represented and diverse, including artists, labels, both majors and independent, industry executives, A&Rs, producers, engineers, songwriters, whatnot. Really more than 350 experts across many fields meet to ensure that recordings are placed in the appropriate category. And from there, we go to the official first round ballot. And if you're interested in participating, please feel free to reach out to me if you would like to be considered. This really is your academy. So if you want to participate and there are changes you want to see, we always encourage members to get involved.
Thanks, Belen. And for
from
those
our end, I'm sorry, Christy, from our end, it's pretty similar to what Belen said. You know, we also work on having the diversity. Our screening committees are also, you know, very diverse. They're music experts from different types of fields, just like Belen mentioned. And also, if you want to be a part of the committee, we encourage you to please reach out to us. You can reach out to me, to myself directly, and we consider all those names. We like to renew at least like 50% of the committees every year because it's so important to get all the membership and the non-members involved in the first process of the screening committees.
I also want to say that's something that you can reach out to me about if you are interested in being recommended for a committee. And you want to kind of go dive into what those committees are, get a refresher from screening committees to other craft committees. That's something that we can definitely talk about if you were a voting member for the craft committees. And then Belen and Isabel, for screening committees, both professional or associate and voting members can participate?
Correct. Even for the Latin Recording Academy, you don't even need to be a member. You could be a journalist, you know, you're a music expert or you're a music executive and you're not a member of the Academy. If you have the knowledge, I mean, obviously we encourage our members to participate, but you don't need to be a member if you're part of the screening committees.
Same for us. You don't need to be a member. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I just want to mention to those who don't know what OEP stands for. That is the online entry process for the Grammy Awards. So the season where everyone is going into their dashboards or media companies have registered and they're submitting eligible recordings for nomination consideration. That process is called the online entry process, just for clarification. Excellent. So let's see. I'm seeing if we have any questions here in the chat. Okay, not so far. So let's talk about awards and nominations proposals. Have we reviewed, we haven't reviewed that yet, have we? A&N, awards and nominations proposals. That I think is different with both the Latin Grammy and the Grammy Awards, if I'm correct. So we'll start with Isabel. Can members of the Latin Recording Academy make awards and nominations proposals?
They can definitely do. We don't have a form that needs to be completed or anything like that, but we definitely encourage them to please reach out to us directly and let us know what is this proposal. All the proposals are reviewed, all the suggestions are reviewed, any name that they want us to consider for special awards are reviewed, and then our committees, our board meets early in the year, and that's where they review these things and they make decisions, whether they pass or whether they don't, or whether further information is needed. But yes, definitely we want, you know, for us, and I'm sure that for the Recording Academy is the same way, you know, we are both a member, we're both member based. So we need the members are the ones that make the changes and the ones that are able to express their needs and what needs to be adjusted. So definitely reach out to us, and we do consider all of them.
And then for us, as you know, the awards process is constantly evolving to reflect what's happening in music. So each year we receive so many proposals with suggested changes on everything from adding a new category to rule revision. And these proposals are discussed and voted on during the awards and nomination committees. Members of the Recording Academy, as Christy mentioned before, can submit proposals to the awards department. And for us, every proposal does require a special submission form that anyone from the awards team can provide. And then after A&N, proposals that are ratified by the Board of Trustees go into effect immediately for the next Grammy Awards.
Christy, I saw a question there in the chat really quick that they were asking if we also invite. The Latin Recording Academy doesn't invite someone to be a member of the Academy. We need that person, if they're interested in becoming part of the Latin Recording Academy, they need to apply.
When the Latin Recording Academy says 51% in Latin or Portuguese, what if your albums are released? What if they're in the instrumental categories?
Then we need to see their connection with the Latin industry. I mean, is a person of Latin descent? Are the songs that they recorded songs that are that the titles are in Spanish? We need to find that connection to the Latin music.
Okay, great.
Yeah, those sometimes are tricky. That's why, again, each application has to be reviewed individually because every member it's very different.
I would say that the best thing if you're applying for the Latin Recording Academy is to know that it's Latin music, so even if it's instrumental, if it's Latin music, making your case and showing your proof that it is Latin music. And then whenever you're embarking on the awards process, the Latin Grammy Awards process for the first time, submitting in the categories that make most sense to you, but knowing that the screening committees are going to review everything and make sure that it's indeed in the right category. And something that it happens sometimes, someone enters in one category and the screening committees decide to move it to another category. And that can be hard. That can be a challenge for the member or for the artist. But do consider it that there were two screening committees that had to agree that it was going to be moved. So if something was entered into hard rock and moved to alternative, the hard rock screening committee had to agree that it was not hard rock. And then the alternative committee had to agree that it was alternative. So that's something that can be rest assured. And also know that with these screening committees and with these craft committees, these are our members that are well, with the screening committees, you don't have to be a member, but for the most part, all of our committees are members of the Recording Academy, and they're all of them are volunteering their time. Is that correct, Isabel and Belen?
Yes,
that is correct on our end. It's also super important to mention that the Academy doesn't make these decisions. It's the committee, the members of the committees that are making the decision to move a song or to say that the song is not eligible for a specific reason. It's not, it's not a one-person decision. It's not the Recording Academy. It's the entire committee that has to vote a majority for this change to happen.
So for a typical screening committee, how large are those committees?
It depends on the genre. I mean, there's some committees that we have 40 plus people. There's others that are perhaps smaller, and they all had a week. They had 12 days to listen to music. Obviously, there's categories that have a lot of more music. There's others that are, like, for example, our urban category is very large, our urban field. So those had to do a lot of more homework. Alternative, I know that had a lot of music to listen to also. So it depends, but I would say anywhere from 30 to 50 people.
Wow.
I would say the same. It varies depending on the genre, but from 20 to 40, mostly around 30 people are part of our genre-based committees.
Got it. And Belen, for the Latin field, are there craft committees in the Latin field? Are there any special committees?
No.
Got it.
It's just genre-based committees for those 5 categories that I mentioned. Mhm.
Excellent. Great. So I think we had a question. Jeanette, are you still wanting to address a question that we have in the chat about membership?
Yes, I just wanted to go back to the question that said, if you don't see the button, one thing that I just noted from Geneva's account is that she's actually set up for auto renewal. So if you renewed your membership last year and you clicked auto renew, it will do it 2 weeks before your expiration date, but you won't be able to renew manually, I guess, from your dashboard. It would do it automatically with whatever credit card you had on file. If for some reason, maybe you have a different credit card or you don't want to set up the auto renewal, again, please email membership@recordingacademy.com. We can uncheck that for you, and then you'll be able to see the button. So if that's anybody's having that issue, or if you have any colleagues that are having that issue, please just double check. Maybe it was set up for auto renewal. We can easily uncheck that.
And on our end, if maybe you don't see the renew button on the Latin Academy dashboard, it's probably because you need to requalify. If you need to requalify, you're not going to see that button. So once you send us the credits, we review them, we change the requalification date, it will immediately come up.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, but I do want to offer members to hang on after we close with Belen, Jeanette, and Isabel and I. If you want to ask any further questions, just directly, because we do have a little bit more time. So, so let's share our contact screen. So we want you all to feel free to get connected with us. Something that is really, really helpful for the Recording Academy and Latin Recording Academy is when our members fully understand their membership and all that goes into it, because then you can help other members when they have questions, right? So these are our contacts. Feel free to reach out to us. And just a reminder, Isabel Paz is the Director of Membership for the Latin Recording Academy. Jeanette Becerra is a membership manager for the Recording Academy, specializing in Latin music. And Belen Dusteves is an awards manager for Latin music. I'm the executive director for the Texas chapter of the Recording Academy. Happy to work with any of our Texas chapter members on any issues that you might be experiencing, any questions that you have, or if you want to get involved more on a committee or want to be recommended, feel free to reach out. So here's our contacts. And we thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if you'd like to stay on to have your questions answered directly by us, feel free to hang, that's completely fine. But for all of you who feel like you got all of the information that you needed, feel free to have a great day, and thank you so much for joining us.